UFC 320 is the 2025 event of the year, and you can't tell me otherwise. One of the greatest title fight performances of all time, another excellent title fight performance from both men involved, one of the greatest rounds I've ever seen, a statement-making performance from a prospect who really needed it, and a comeback win by an otherwise very salty man. And we're going to break it all down, starting with our main event of the evening. Alex Pereira got his belt back against Magomed Ankalaev, and I'm a happy camper, okay? Because Pereira did everything he needed to do. He just made a beeline for him. He put on some of the heaviest pressure that he's ever put on any of his UFC opponents. He broke his foot on one of the first leg kicks. Didn't even matter. He persisted. Straights to the body, as well as just bullying Ankalaev, forcing him into the danger zone between the cage and the big black line, where upwards of like 80% of finishes happen. So it was very important to keep him there, and he did. A couple more leg kicks. Ankalaev switches to orthodox, which was going to be a big factor in this fight. How Pereira fights against southpaws. He does struggle a little bit. Then Pereira lands an overhand, and Ank gets stunned, and he shoots a really bad takedown that Pereira is more than ready for. Pereira kind of pushes him over, leans on him, and lands 20-ish unanswered shots on the ground. Now that everybody's realizing how valuable the 12-6 elbows are, they have been influential in 2 or 3 of the last 5 main events. Pereira used them, Lopez used them, and I think Johnny Walker threw a couple, but I'm too lazy to go back and rewatch that fight, so just imagine he did. So it's something that I was a little bit skeptical about, but it is making a difference at a very high level, so good rule change. Technique-wise, there isn't too much to break down about that performance, so I'm going to focus more on thematic factors. Pereira approached this fight in an opposite way to the first, not just in the cage, but outside of it as well. He took almost 8 months off between the first and second Ank fights, and that's one of the biggest layoffs of his whole career, so he came back fully rejuvenated. He seemingly confirmed the rumors of the injury and the sickness as well. I'm not sure if it was a broken hand or rotavirus like Rogan said, because that came from a very not reputable source on Twitter, but it was something that impacted Pereira in the first fight. Last time, he was kind of hesitant, again, being sick and you're coming in and you don't want to lose the belt. Here, he had nothing to lose and he just went for it, right? I think we're going to look back on the loss to Magomed Ankalaev and we're going to say that it was one of the best things that ever happened to Alex Pereira. Now he slows down and he doesn't fight every 3 months. Maybe he pushes to fight every 5, something like that, splitting the difference between, 3 and kind of 7, what we got now. He comes in fully prepared and healthy into every single fight moving forward, and I don't think that any light heavyweight on the roster beats him. He wants Jones at the White House at heavyweight. I think he should probably just dispatch Ulberg first, and then maybe we'll talk about it. There's enough time to where he could make that turnaround. Ankalaev should fight someone else who fought on this card. I'm pretty sure you can figure out who it is, but we'll get to that in a little bit here. Corey Sandhagen versus Merab Dvalishvili went kind of as I expected. You can't give the first round to Merab. You just can't do it. I rewatched it 4, 5 times, and I'm like, he's just not landing. He's not getting the takedowns. Corey outstruck him, badly. Not even the numbers, you can just tell. It's like, dude, he's doubling his strikes. If you're giving that to Merab, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Right? I just don't understand how one of the judges managed to give Corey 4, but not 1. I think 1 is the shoe-in easiest round for Corey. No judge gave Corey both 1 and 4, which was a little bit strange. First round basically went perfect for him, though. Again, doubling strikes, stuffing every takedown. That's kind of what a lot of people expected from this fight, is just Corey's going to go out there, he's going to get that first round, and then it's going to be all downhill. Wasn't quite like that, but it started out very good for Sandhagen. He went on to win the first minute and a half of the second round, just like the first. I'm like, oh my god, he's going to do it. He's going to get this win. He's going to get the first 2, and then maybe he steals 1 late. No, big flurry from Merab. Some of these punches are kind of inaccurate. 1 landed on the temple. That's what really got Sandhagen. It wasn't even on the chin. It was on the temple. Crazy. He lands an absolute ton of shots. 10-8 Merab, very clearly. After the flurry, Corey recovered well, but he was still dazed for most of the round after that. Maybe the last 30 seconds he was kind of coming to, but I don't think he really got good until he got that extra minute on the stool going into the third. Merab dominated that round, and he got a wobble, and it was an excellent moment, but he didn't really do much, in my opinion, right? After he wobbled him and he hit him a couple times, Corey got back to the feet, and then Merab didn't really push as much as I think he could have, right? He went on to the body locks and got some takedowns and mat returns, and I'm not saying that he needed to do more. It was certainly a 10-8, but I feel like he gave Sandhagen kind of moments to recover in that round just by going on the body lock. That's something that Sandhagen had on point. The whole fight was just go to the body lock, get up against the fence, break it, stall out positions kind of, and I feel like Merab, if he would have let him go, he would have had more of a chance of getting another wobble or something like that. I'm not trying to say he doesn't deserve a 10-8, I'm just saying there was like a couple more options for him there. Third round is super close. All right, I don't know why no one's necessarily giving this to Corey. Seems like it's just 1-4, but significant strike numbers that aren't super accurate, but they had it 15-14 for Merab. I think the bigger shots on the feet went to Corey. He had this partially blocked head kick and this overhand that kind of wobbled Merab a little bit. He stumbled back just a touch. 4, which is another round given to him by the judges. Corey did a bit better job, but he had kind of similar issues as 2 and 3. Merab's body lock, the knees to the thigh. It's a clear Corey round up until the last 30 seconds where Merab gets like a throw and he locks up a darce, but it isn't really in. The 5th round is again close on the feet, and the 2 biggest strikes were again for Sandhagen. This spin kick to the body, and this right hand in the last 10 seconds that sent Merab wheeling all the way across the cage. Not enough to win this round, though. Merab is getting better on the feet, but aside from the 2nd round, purely in the striking, Sandhagen was winning exchanges and landing the bigger shots. So if you're giving Merab the fight, you're saying that the grappling was enough to close that gap. I think that if you have a problem with the grappling sequences in the fight between Khamzat Chimaev and DDP, you have to have a couple of problems here to stay kind of consistent, right? Khamzat pinned DDP down and landed small punches to hold position. In this fight, Merab kept taking Sandhagen down. He would land a couple of small punches. Corey would get up. Merab would knee the thigh. He would hold the clinch against the cage and then rinse and repeat. Or Corey would break the lock. They'd strike for a bit and then that would happen. There is a similar problem with the lack of trying to finish the fight. The only difference is that Corey was able to change the position a little bit and get out easier. And again, it's silly, but I have to stick to my guns. I have to speak my truth, you know? Merab didn't have bigger moments on the feet than Corey in 1, 3, 4, or 5. And if you're giving Merab all those rounds, it's because of the grappling. He had a ton of takedowns, but there was very little effective grappling. Not much in the way of meaningful ground and pound with some intent behind it or submission attempts. Merab had a front choke attempt in the 5th, and he had a darce in the 4th, but he sat in that same position for about 30 seconds without any action or trying to change position or the angle or squeeze a bit more. You score the fight as a whole, and you have to give it to Merab, but the scoring criteria, as well as round-based scoring, makes this fight very close in my opinion. I looked through the numbers and tried to tally things up for myself, and especially in that close 5th round, you can't give Merab 34 significant strikes unless you count the knees to the thigh in this round, in which case, are they counting them in the other rounds? It doesn't seem like they are, but numbers-wise, things aren't adding up, and that's just a problem with the UFC in general, but if they're counting those shots as significant strikes, I'm not saying they're insignificant, but they're probably closer to total strikes than significant strikes. Really, we need some sort of class between total, significant. We need to know what they mean. You know, what is significant? What is total? How many total strikes equal a significant strike? We don't have these kinds of numbers. The Weasel has tried stuff before with the light, medium, heavy type strikes, but I don't think that's down to a science either. So there's certainly issues with strike tracking in this fight. Them scoring those knees in the 5th throws all of these numbers out of the window, right? Obviously, numbers are a bad way to score a fight anyway, but I have seen people just say that Merab won every round and outstruck Sandhagen because he had more strikes. More strikes does not necessarily equal outstruck. Definition-wise, maybe, but fights are more than just words. When I picked Corey Sandhagen to win this fight, I thought I was a genius, but it was with the caveat that it would end up being a really close fight, and Corey would need to win on optics. He would need to cut Merab. He would need to steal rounds with late wobbles. He would need to wrench on a sub that wasn't fully in. He would need to really play it up for the judges, you know? But Merab is the king of optics. He revealed backstage that the right hand at the end of the 5th really hurt him. You know, the one that had him wheeling back? Yeah, that one. The judges aren't privy to that information, but if Merab actually looked a little bit more hurt, would that have swung the 5th in Corey's favor with that one final big shot? One of the biggest of the fight? The judges are usually all over the place, and they usually just score based off their own interpretations, but in this fight, I had a hunch. So I went back and I watched the whole thing through while listening for who got bigger crowd reactions, and that determined this fight. Even though Corey had moments, the crowd cheered for every single Merab takedown, no matter the amplitude. It could have just been a little dunk where he kind of puts his shoulder on the leg and forces Corey down, and then Corey immediately pops back up. They don't cheer for the pop-up, they cheer for the go-down, you know? And that's good optics, ladies and gentlemen. The unified rules, on the other hand, do kind of favor what Corey did in this fight, though. The 3 lines that are really important are this bit right here where it says that your effective striking and grappling are valued based on its ability to bring about the end of the fight, with the immediate weighing more heavily than the cumulative. This next line, it shall be noted that a successful takedown is not merely a changing of position, but the establishment of an attack from the use of a takedown. And top and bottom position fighters are assessed more on the impactful/effective result of their actions than their position. Obviously, Sandhagen didn't do enough. He actually looked pretty dejected, but those 3 lines build an argument that I think is flimsy, but not impossible to make. Immediate being more valuable than cumulative, a takedown not really being valuable unless there is subsequent attacks after it, and general position mattering less than the work done. It depends on how some other matchups go in the division over the next month or so, but Corey should fight Batista, Zahabi, or Jackson, one of these guys just outside the top 10. I still really like Merab. I'm excited for him versus Petr Yan, and I love that he's active. It's refreshing, but I think a lot of people are missing the big picture of this fight. Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree Jr. It's a day later and my throat is still shot. My apologies if the audio's a little whack. Don't get me wrong, it's a really great fight, but it's not a fight of the year candidate in my opinion. The first half of Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald isn't great, and then it really picks up late. This is kind of the same. The fight wasn't really getting good until the last minute of the second. Comeback of the year for sure, because Jiri looked really bad in the first half, but boy did he bring it home. Khalil doesn't necessarily have bad cardio, but he has to pace himself really well, like how he did in the Jamal Hill fight. Here, he effectively punched himself out. Jiri looked so shit in the first, it's not even funny. I was so spooked. Like his feet weren't under him, and then he slowly began to find the range. He started using head movement to make Khalil miss, and then landed these big counters back. Jiri Prochazka has gone from having no head movement to some of the best head movement in the UFC right now over the course of a year, which is insane. Crazy finish, Khalil's already falling, and Jiri kind of guides his corpse to the canvas. Jiri versus Ank should be next, because he needs just one more win to get that Pereira trilogy. I really want to give it to him, but I'm also pretty scared. Khalil can fight, it wouldn't make too much sense, but a Johnny Walker rematch would be kind of fun. Yusuf Zalal versus Josh Emmitt was weird. Josh Emmitt in the lead-up said that he pretty exclusively worked on strength and conditioning for this fight, and it showed. He needs more weapons. He needs to cut off the cage. Power and cardio were never an issue. Zalal circled a little bit, and then he just took him down and armbarred him in a minute. Yair Rodriguez is in shambles right now. Yusuf Zalal really needed this. He called out Lerone Murphy. I don't think he gets that fight, but he could end up fighting a returning Arnold Allen, or maybe the winner of Steve Garcia, David Onama. Josh Emmitt should just retire. He's getting pretty up there, but the UFC might be evil and feed him to Gene Silva. That's probably more likely. Joe Pyfer rope-a-doped Abbas Magomedov. Abbas tuckered himself out like he always does, and Joe Pyfer got a sub. That's going to be very important going forward. Middleweight is a really weird division with a lot of specialists. Having the grappling in his back pocket will one day come in handy. Give him Vettori in a 5-rounder. I want to see how racist they can both be. Abbas Magomedov should get on EPO. No, make him fight Kelvin Gastelum, another top 25 middleweight. It's time for the prelim lightning round. Let's get to it. Government-sanctioned murder. A serial weight bully won. Who would have thought? Hey, buddy, don't get too discouraged. I heard the GFL's hiring. Shabazian will be ranked in the future. Boring. A serial weight bully lost. The world rejoiced. Chris Gutierrez is still in the running for the craftiest vet at bantamweight. Good thing he's not the breadwinner. And finally, this fight had a knockdown, and it's still the worst fight on the card. I went 10-4 on the card, pretty decent. I ended up picking Pereira and Sandhagen. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. I'm going to give this event 9 tires out of 10. Right now, it's the front runner for event of the year. I think 319 had better prelims, but the way that this event finished and the strength of the main card really bring it up. Let me know what you think about this card in the comment section below. Like, comment, and subscribe for more MMA content. Shout out to Proletarian Gothic, Vanny, and Stu for being vampiric enjoyers. Thank you all so much for watching. The UFC feels re-energized, and have a good time.